in the chat, kind of hanging out, talking, doing the countdown thing. It's always fun to see you guys doing that. We have some guests with us. Let's talk about this topic that comes from one of you guys. These are our friends, the Crawfords, and there's a link to their channel in the description below, or there's also an interactive card around here you can click on to go check out their family vlogs. But we're going to talk here today about robbing kids of their childhood, expectations, workloads, making them do things parents are supposed to do, all that kind of stuff. But before we get into that, tell us about your channel, Ben and Cammie, and what people can expect over there.
So we started a channel about 4 or 5 months ago, and it's called Fight for Together. We got, see, oh, that's our little,
look at you guys. Got like swag.
That's my fist, and that's our kid's fist. And very simply, what we believe is that relationships are really, really hard if you're doing them right, for them to be healthy and grow. And the ones that are the hardest are the most important, namely family. So we think it's a fight, and we wanted to kind of share and inspire people with just some of the lessons that we're learning about how to fight for those relationships.
Yeah, that's cool. I remember the first time you said, or no, I saw the picture that your oldest daughter, Dove, made. Or was it a painting or something? Like, it was like a year or two ago or something. And she called Fight for Together.
All over. Yeah.
Yeah, and I saw that Facebook me posted. I was like, oh, like, I get it. That's cool. And then you're trying to think through channel names. I was like, I love that Fight for Together thing.
It was actually Tim's idea to name
I
our
love
channel.
that Fight for Together thing. I'm like, you should totally do that. So
yeah.
Yes, we're on. Those of you guys who are in the chat, we're live. Hopefully you can hear us and see us okay. So check out their channel.
They just had a new baby. Like, just had. Like, we didn't just have a baby compared to them.
We only had one of them. 12 days ago, we had a boy. Sorry, we had a little interruption here. 12 days ago, we had a boy, and we gave him a name over the weekend. So we lag a little bit on that. But, yeah.
They did a home birth. So the home birth vlog is up from like last week, and check that out.
It's an incredible video. You have to go watch it.
Dana cried.
Oh, yeah.
And then she said, I think we need to have more kids.
I cried.
And then the vlog you just posted today is actually revealing the name. I can go check it out.
But I think it really fits this topic too, though, with how you've challenged your children and your family, you guys too.
Yeah. So you guys in the chat, we are watching, both of us, Ben and Cammie have it up, Dan and I have it up. We're seeing you guys. So as we're going through this, feel free to leave your comments, your questions. We'll answer them as it pertains to this topic as we go through here. But this topic was it came from a YouTube comment we got on a couple previous videos, and I have one here to share with you guys. I think it summarizes it pretty well, and it's this one. I have two questions. This is from Drummer Loves Bookworm. Would you talk about having older kids taking care of younger kids? Many people feel like that is kind of robbing childhood to make them do parenting things, taking care of babies, etc. It's supposed to be mom and dad's job. Is there another side to that, apparently? Is there a particular vlog where you got the concept of the family team? The second question is, she says, I feel bad, or he, I don't know if it's a he or which one it is in that picture. I think it's the she. I feel badly for you guys today. I appreciate your honesty that the day didn't go how you planned. OMG, that happens to all of us, but I would like to have known not only more about what went wrong with your plan, but how you dealt with it then. I get a lot of encouragement from your vlogs. So, great question. And I know this is something the Crawfords believe along with us, so that's why we invited him here. People who agree with us, that's who we bring here.
That's a really good question. In fact, if people aren't asking it, they're probably not observing like I think everyone has to ask this question, even us parents. Like, I don't know, I've wrestled with it a lot.
So what do you think? Giving them too much work, chores, having them help you guys around the house, doing adult-like stuff, does that rob them of childhood, or what consequences does that have on kids?
Well, I'm going to go like a really big picture, just because thinking through this in this way is what helped me. I think one of the first questions what is an ideal childhood? You know, is there a book? Where is this supposed to come from? You know, we all have an idea of what an ideal childhood should look like. And we all probably have some preconceived, you know, who's to say what's right or wrong, but a lot of the ideas I realized that I had were super new. Mm-hmm. You know, like they're not practiced internationally and doing things. So another thing that I had in my head was a typical viewpoint of like what retirement ought to look like and what childhood ought to look like. And they were actually very similar. It was like, oh, I thought kids and old people deserve to just like sit around by a pool and hang out and not work at all, right? And all that's been challenged for me. So it's important to just acknowledge that we all have that viewpoint, I think, coming into it. And I'll just kind of share, for me, the big thing that changed for me was, you know, we believe that, well, this is what we used to believe, was that the best thing for life for people was to sit back and relax and just kind of chill. I thought that was the ideal life for kids, for adults, for old people. It wasn't just for kids. You know, in other words, we should all have a childhood forever. And what I've come to believe since then is that what I prefer, what even our kids prefer, is something with purpose, something with a deep purpose that works towards something of meaning. So we found that our kids prefer that, even if it's chores or even if it's hard work, or even if it's like something really strenuous, like a hike around a mountain, that they prefer that over what a lot of people consider typical kid. I don't even know what they're exactly talking about, maybe like watching cartoons or playing with toys or really just consuming. So,
yeah, I think like, so like, where does that, and I don't know where it changed, because I think back to just like where like what was expected of kids, like when my grandparents were growing up, even of my own dad, like what was expected of them back in the 40s and the 50s seems to be a lot different than it is today. And I think now it's like, I don't know if this is true, I'm guessing, but I feel like our generation kind of grew up with a sense of entitlement, and now they're like passing that on to their kids of like, oh, now I need to sacrifice hardcore because my kid is entitled to this thing that I never had, that I wish I had, which was like, I wish that no one ever asked me to do any work. I don't know if that's true, but I do know that like if we've come pretty, in a relatively short amount of time, we've come pretty far from you need to have a lot of kids because we need them all to work on the farm, to don't interrupt your kid while he's playing video games and don't ask him to do too much homework, you know, like. And
I think that sense of entitlement, Tim, is like actually really dangerous for the kid. And anytime that I've had that sense of entitlement, even as an adult, it's bad for me.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think it's important. I think that's a huge point that you make, that life wasn't this way for very, very long ago. And I think we need to ask this question, is this actually evolved? Are we better off than old farm life like we see in the movies, or like our grandparents? Or have we devolved in some ways?
For me, like, I grew up not having to do any chores around the house. My mom is a workhorse, and even when she comes and visits, like, I love it because she just does a ton of work. And our house is spotless by the time she leaves. But I grew up not having to do anything. I don't think I started doing my laundry until sophomore year in high school, maybe. But even then, my mom would go in and clean my room. And so when we got married, I did not know how to take care of a house. Like, she
didn't know how to cook pancakes.
like the only add water kind.
So one of the expectations in my house growing up is I'm the oldest of 6, and so we all had different meals assigned to us that we had to cook. My mom made the menu, bought the food, but then we'd have to make the meals. And so I grew up learning how to cook meals for our family. And then we got married, and Dana didn't know how to mix water with pancakes.
I loved not having any responsibilities. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, that was great to have everybody else serve me. But it did not set me up to be able to lead my own family and take care of my own family. So.
Yeah, I had a really similar upbringing where I didn't have to do much of anything. It's also almost like I told my mom just as a favor, you know. It wasn't like I didn't like try to help her out, but I had a kid by the time I was 21, and so it was like really jarring to all of a sudden, go from not doing anything to now I have this like helpless person that I have to do everything for.
Yeah, that's a shock.
It was hard. It was rough.
Some people are asking in the comments how old we are. We're 36 and 35. And our kids are 14, 13, 11, 9. Hang on, I'm going to get this. 5.
Almost 2 weeks.
In almost 2 weeks.
Yay, good job.
I like it. You spread them all out that way.
Yeah, you like that strategy?
Yeah. Where was that when I was starting out? I don't know.
Were you then? than
that's
not
funny.
starting out.
So Claire Gymnast says that her parents make her clean her room. And Brianna Willis says, I cook, I clean, I'm 11. I'd love to hear from Claire and Brianna how that, are you guys,
Do you like those responsibilities?
yeah, do you
do you
push
like,
back against them?
Yeah. Like, I would love to know how many of you are, like, living at home with your parents and have responsibilities, and do you, like, and I wouldn't say necessarily enjoy, appreciate having responsibilities.
You know what's
Yeah.
so tough about that question, though, is, in a way, a lot of kids complain, right?
Yeah.
If you ask them to take the trash out or do the dishes or sweep the thing or clean the room. And you know what? A lot of adults, including myself, we complain too,
Yep.
about the exact same stuff. It's like, we don't want to take the trash out, change the diaper, have a meeting with our boss or whatever it is. And the only way to know, I think, if chores or whatever this is that we're talking about, hard work is good, is to know what the alternative is. And a lot of times I think that the grass is always greener. I think, oh man, if I didn't have to do this, life would be so much better. So, those people that commented, Tim, I forget what their screen names were that you were just talking about. But, for kids, a lot of times it's easy for a kid to think, oh, if I was just watching cartoons, my life would be better right now. But we also know if you watch kids that all they do is watch cartoons, they're not happy kids.
No, that was our kids today.
Yeah.
I was
It's
desperately.
just called survival mode without
yeah,
our nanny right
yeah.
now.
So they watched
She's on
a lot
vacation.
of TV today, and they're like the grumpiest kids ever today. They do so much better when they have structure and a responsibility to do.
Listen,
They seem
when
so
I
much
watch
happier.
YouTube all day, I get off and I'm a jerk. It's the exact same thing too. But at the time, it sounds like a great idea. But
Yeah.
we have to compare it to the alternative. So I know chores sounds like it's big and it's bad and scary at times, but life is hard too.
Yeah.
Regardless of which option you take.
Yeah. What was it? One mom up further. Melissa
Melissa.
in real life. We're to train our children in the way they should go. That includes training them to be hardworking moms, dad, husbands, and wives. You have to start at a young age. And then Am
agree
and
with
Ty,
that.
my siblings and I did basic things. This is, everyone's clothes. Nicole B, our kids are all 6 years and under, 5 of them. Woo!
Ooh, they're doing your strategy.
Same
Yeah.
they are.
What, they watched our vlog and thought it was a good idea? I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying it's
The 10
hard.
minutes you see a day are great.
Yeah, I get to edit those 10 minutes too. So they help because families help each other. I'm one mom. I can't do it all.
Right.
And then I lost it. Morwin. When I was younger, I had my list of chores that I had to do before I was allowed to play. And I believe if I hadn't, then I wouldn't be as responsible as I am now.
So Jules writes, I'm helping my mom with my baby brother. And I think that's really cool because what we've found is that a lot of kids, when they're actually given a choice of work that's meaningful, they actually prefer it to
Yeah, Hannah
watching
does.
Oh, yeah.
cartoons. And I think one of the jobs as parents, the trickiest and hardest thing is asking this question: how do we take work and things that are good, and how do we make them appealing to our kids? I see you guys do a great job at that on your
Well,
blog.
Shabbat, and that's a video that we featured a little. We talked a little bit about Shabbat in our past vlog, and there's some questions about that, which we don't need to get into all right now, but it's a different topic. But basically, what it is we're taking time to rest as a family and celebrate the good work that we did during the past week. And so, one of the conversations we have at dinner every Friday evening is, Hannah, what good work did you do this week? Zeke, what good work did you do? I talk about the good work I did.
Yeah,
and
celebrate
and
it.
the principle we try to reinforce there, not just on Shabbat, but throughout the week, is good work brings good reward, right? So this isn't like doing work because mommy and daddy are lazy and we just would rather sit on the couch and watch TV while you do all the housework.
That sounds great.
They see
I was
us
like, hang on a
working
second.
hard, and
Are we saying that's not an option?
yeah, that's when we're not vlogging. No.
Sitting down, eating bonbons.
Yeah. But I lost my train of thought now. But yeah, I don't
about
know.
good
But that's
work
like
brings good
we
reward.
celebrate that. So that's what we try to teach our kid every week is like we're celebrating work. That it is good. Work isn't bad. Work is necessary. And kids who grow up not having a whole lot of expectations like of them and not really knowing how to work hard, I feel like does them a really big disservice. So I don't think there's too many parents that would disagree with that. Maybe there are, but maybe I'm wrong. But I don't think there's a ton of them. But I think what we're talking about here is where does it go too far? You know, like now you're robbing them of their childhood. Like that's pretty strong.
You know what image I got in my head when I heard about this question was, I don't know how many of you guys have seen Les Mis or Les Miserables, the movie. You know, it's based on the book, and there's this scene where the Thénardiers, they make the 5-year-old or 9-year-old girl Cosette do like, she's like the slave for the entire house, you know, and she does all the work, and you're like feeling really bad for this kid, and you really should. And I think that some people, I hope everyone knows, we're not saying like that's what we're talking about here. Like that's, first of all, that has no love. And that's basically like slavery, you know, because you are forcing a child to do a job just because you don't want to. And there was a story, this was about 3 years ago, that this story was really impactful for me. Cammie asked one of our daughters to take one of our other daughters to the bathroom. You know, it was like the 9-year-old, or it was the 12-year-old taking the 3-year-old to the bathroom or something like that. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, man, are we bad parents because we do this? And at the time, Cammie was having this really deep conversation with this older woman, like helping her through some problems. And that's when I realized that it wasn't just unfair that Cammie made the kid do this, but the way that Cammie had gotten to a place, my wife Cammie, to a place where she was giving advice to older women was because she had taken so many kids to the bathroom so many times. And that's where I started to see that chores and work for anyone is really an opportunity to grow and to learn, you know? Yeah. And for kids, if we see it that way as adults, the reason why we have our kids do work is not because we don't want to do it, or just because we're trying to save money and not have a nanny do it, or because we're just lazy, but it's actually an opportunity to teach them.
Mm-hmm.
People keep asking what our kids do. I don't know if that's a good.
Should we say what our kids do?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Can you remember it all?
They do a lot.
You have a list before Shabbat, like to get ready for Shabbat, right?
Yeah.
They just practice Shabbat. You know me. They do that thing also.
It's just, right. Do you want to explain what Shabbat is? Because a lot of people probably don't know. Shabbat's pretty much like Sabbath if you're from the Protestant church. It's just like taking a rest.
It's the same word.
Rest. Yeah. Same thing.
It means rest. So yeah, it's a full day where we rest.
Yeah. Well, as far as like what our kids do, I do have them do a lot of housework, and how I do it is I separate. I say, you sometimes I'll give them partners, like you 7 in memory, you guys go take out the living room, clean that up, and I give them, and they know exactly what that means. Dove and Eden, you clean the kitchen, dining room, and we probably do that like maybe twice a week, something like that, to keep the house somewhat tidy. And I have them do laundry. As far as taking care of, I have them taking care of their 5-year-old sister, and now they're starting to take care of the baby, like they hold the baby, and
which is fun. That's like a treat to kids.
Most of the time.
Yeah, right now with the 2-week-old, but
they take care of the pets. Our kids make breakfast 6 days a week.
We have a lot of pets.
They take care of lunch. 2 of our oldest kids, they make dinner. But I want people to realize too that like 95% of the time they really enjoy doing dinner. Like we give them a budget and they get to choose, and it's not, because we don't see chores and work as a bad thing, and we don't, it's hard sometimes to not see it as that. But
well, and I think one of the things too as a parent is our 14-year-old has more responsibilities than our 9-year-old. So we try our best to like let them grow with like what they're supposed to do. And our 14-year-old, actually both our 14 and 13-year-olds love to cook. So that's nice. I'm glad they like it.
That's great. Zeke loves to cook, but he's 5, so he's a little limited on, they know how to do the toaster and the microwave right now.
Well, isn't that crazy that Zeke loves to cook and he's 5?
He makes oatmeal.
It's awesome. When he was 4, he was my designated egg cracker. And he would crack eggs better than I would most of the time.
Well, I think kids actually want to help far more than us as parents want them to help.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what's so interesting. I'm afraid of like messes, and I want to get through it quick and efficiently, and the kids slow me down. but usually they want to work more than we're okay with it.
Yeah.
I think the key to that
telling them no a lot when I'm just like, no, I just want to get it cooked really quick. Like, leave me alone.
is you have to cast a I was about to say cast a vision. I don't know if that's true, but it's like, so how do I say this? I think if I'll speak from experience, I guess, as a kid, there was times when it really did feel like you just have to do work and you got to suffer through it and it's gonna be miserable and you just have to do it. And that was like totally different than what I feel like. I don't want to say like I feel like our kids, because I guess I don't know, I'm not them, but you know, when you're doing it, like, this is because you're valuable. This is because you're a part of our team. This is because you're good at this, or you're getting really good at this, or something, as opposed to like just doing work for the sake of doing work. I don't know how to, I'm explaining myself very well, but that's kind of how I thought growing up, is like, you do the chores because you have to do chores, and I'm not going to do them, basically.
Totally. You just bite the bullet and you bear through it. And I think that's how a lot of people learn to work as adults too, actually. And I think one of the things that makes Tim and I a little bit different, just because I know about Tim, is that we're both doing work right now that we're choosing to do, that we really believe in. And I know that you've done a lot to get to that point, and I know I have. But I think I want to train our kids starting at this age that the reason why we work isn't just to get allowance. It's not just to make your boss happy, or in this case, the parents, you know, but there's actually, like, I don't know. I remember one day we Sundays we go out and do yard work as a family, and we turn on the music and we have a fun time. But I was thinking, how can we, like, you know, how can we make this fun? So we got together and we said, you know what, guys, do you see this yard right now? Do you see how it looks? Like, we're going to make this yard look beautiful. Who wants to make something look beautiful? And everyone raises their hand, you know, but that's a different tone than saying, all right, we're not leaving here until this is done because we need to make our yard look as good as the neighbors, you know?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And kids want to get behind that.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm usually, when our kids are like, Hannah, right now, Hannah has been in charge of emptying the dishwasher, cleaning off the table, and loading the dishwasher while Zeke is scrubbing all the dishes. But I'm in there, like, sweeping the kitchen, helping them do different things. And it's not
we're
them
working together.
Yeah.
It's different than, like, if you're just sitting on the couch watching TV and you're telling the kids to go do stuff. You know, like, you got to model this. You got to set the example. What we do with our kids, and, you know, we're Christians, so this works for us, is that we point kids back to the very, very beginning of the story in Genesis 1, when God creates man and he tells him, the reason I made you is to work, basically. Like, you're going to take care of this, is to be fruitful, is to multiply, is to rule over the birds in the air and the fish of the sea and all that. Like, that's your job, is to oversee and take care of all this. And so, like, work was actually, like, as part of the blessing. It's a good thing. Now, it became cursed later because of when sin entered and all that. But it's this, the work itself, though, is actually, like, that's a blessing that we get to do. So we believe that, and we try to tie that back to the beginning of the story for our kids, and then we model it after Shabbat, which is like what God did on the seventh day. He rested. He took a day and he rested from all his work, and he set that up as a pattern for family rhythms then throughout the scripture. And so that's why we practice that, because we feel like that really, like, I love that one day of rest. Not because I hate the work, but it just feels so good. Like, it feels like, man, that was such good work. That was so worth it. That was rewarding. So,
Although your Shabbat this last week wasn't.
well,
so
with kids, it's more like I just clean diapers and stuff. All that's all.
And by tying it into that story, a bigger story, you know, I think you're teaching kids that not all work needs to suck. You know, we're actually made to work. Sarah was asking in the chat box how much we pay our kids for allowance, or how much is paid for allowance. We don't pay our kids for allowance.
For chores.
For chores. We give them an allowance, but we try and separate that from the work we do. And I know that there's a whole nother way people do allowance, where you're trying to teach kids about money. We teach our kids a ton about money, but we do it in a different way believe me, they start businesses like crazy. I mean, we got kids selling soda pop to other kids. We got kids selling rabbits.
Tomorrow's vlog for us is our kids' very first entrepreneurial effort. So we did homeschool. We did business as homeschool yesterday.
Yeah, so that's awesome. There's a ton of business that we teach our kids, but we don't want them to work for our family because they feel like they're doing it for compensation. We're actually trying to teach them that, kind of like what Tim was just talking about, that we're made to work, the joy of work, other things.
Yeah.
and actually work ethic,
Rachel S. I want to see what you guys would say to her. My older sister and I have to vacuum, dust, empty the dishwasher, clean a full bath and a half bath, and dust both entertainment centers. My parents feel as if they are doing great, as Laura and I are losing our social lives since we have to do this every day we have off. What would you guys say to Rachel?
Well, want to say something?
First of all, I respect you for respecting your parents and doing as they ask.
I mean, I would say, Rachel, first of all, I'm sorry that that's hard. I know that work is hard. And I guess one thing I would say is that struggle that you're dealing with also, though, is not unique to just you or to children. That's something as an adult I wrestle with. I have a free schedule in a way, but a lot of times my personal life of who I want to hang out with conflicts with what my goals are for my work. Sometimes those come from a boss, and sometimes they just come from something that I feel like I ought to do for work. So it's hard, and one of the nice situations you're in, if you believe that you should obey your parents, which is generally what we believe, is it's nice to have a clear-cut viewpoint of at least what you have to do first before you have a clear set of priorities. So I think that helps. We think obedience to parents is important, even if it's not always fair or feels right at the time.
I think social life, like every kid, I think has an idea of what their social life should look like, and it's probably more than you want it to be, just because it's fun. You enjoy it, and you're free, and there's a lot to like about it. So, I mean, I wonder if if you weren't doing the chores, if that struggle would change, if you would still probably want more of a social life. So I think it's best to honor your parents, and I think if you're a Christian, I believe that God will honor that. Melissa, in real life, I struggle with how many chores to give my kids because they are in public school all day, and I'm a stay-at-home mom of an 11th-month-old. So any advice for Melissa? How many chores to give her kids when they're in public school?
That's tough. We don't have public school. We haven't done that. Well, not recently. But I think it's something for each parent to gauge, and the thing that I just know that we used to always feel guilty every time we gave a chore because we always thought work was a bad thing. And kind of like what Tim said, the big switch that I think can happen is if you start to view it as a way to strengthen your kids, to strengthen your relationship with the kids, even if like what Tim and Dan were saying, that the kids are asking to crack the eggs or work together, that you don't need to feel guilty for asking your kids to work if you love them.
Yeah.
I just think that's important.
And you do the work with them. It's like a relationship building time rather than a do this and go serve me as the parent. Like that's a totally different attitude that I think has the exact opposite effect. And that's, I think you might be robbing your kids' childhood if they feel like the parents are making me do work and so I can just serve them, and there's no bigger picture behind it, So, any other thoughts while we wrap up here that you guys wanted to say about this that you didn't have a chance to get out?
Well, I'll speak real quick to what you just said, Tim. You said understand the big picture behind it, and I think that's actually important. Is if your family's not working towards anything big, almost all chores and all work is going to feel really mundane and kind of worthless. Mm-hmm. And that's something our family, we're working for something really big, and big things and valuable things are hard. And we found that our kids are really supportive of hard things as long as they understand them. So we a lot of times I think people and us, we think our kids are kind of dumb because they're small, but they're not dumb. They're not stupid. They're really smart, and they're actually wanting to be a part of what we're doing. We just have to be open to it and communicate what's in our head, and invite them into it and live for something bigger than just wanting a cool house or trying to get through the day.
Well, the motivation is usually, for most parents that I've seen, is like a bribe, basically. You do this, I'll give you that. You do this, I'll give you allowance. You do this, I'll buy you something in the store on the way home, and that's like the big picture. But then all you're teaching your kid is like the work that they do isn't valuable in and of itself. It's just always leads to something else, which is true. You know, good work does bring good reward. But for us, like, the reward is that we get to spend time together as a family. The reward is that we get to celebrate this meal, this big fun meal every Friday evening for Shabbat together as a family, and then rest and do family adventure day. Like, that's the reward that we're working towards. And I feel like it's different somehow, but I don't know how.
And really, I think there's like no shortcut to what we've learned is that parents have to find pleasure in work. If parents can find pleasure in work, kids are going to find pleasure in work. If parents just work for money, like you said, then parents are going to do the same thing. Oh, everything's buzzing here.
Yeah.
It's time.
Yeah, we gotta get back to
We
our
could
kids,
keep on
but
talking forever.
This
You
was
guys
awesome,
who are-
guys. Thanks, everyone,
You
for their
are
questions.
popping in here. Quickly, Ben and Cammie, tell us about your channel and stuff for people who have joined us halfway through here.
So our channel is called Fight for Together. It's on YouTube. We have a Facebook page and all that. And
Is that a
we are
sticker?
all about helping people kind of engage and telling people that it's worth it to fight for the relationships that are the most important and the hardest, which for us is our family and our kids. And we need to think outside the box to do that. Kind of like this conversation was really great. So we do vlogs 5 days a week, and we were really inspired by these guys. This is cool to be on this channel talking with you guys.
We'll be hanging out more too. Hopefully, when baby stuff settles
When we're
down
not
a
so
bit.
sleep deprived.
Yeah, I got 4 hours last night. Well, yeah, if this is your guys' first time here at our channel, we'd love to have you subscribe here. We are always exploring how to become a family team, and I know there's some questions about that. Well, you guys brought up here about that, and Dan and I will try to do another video about that sometime in the future, just dedicated to what does it mean to be a family team anyway? Is it just mean you do chores together, or is it something more? And yes, it's something more. So we'll talk more about that. But we'd love to have you subscribe. We do family videos Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then live stream on Tuesday, Thursday, the in-between days. So we'd love to have you guys join us in our family and our story that we're hanging out with you guys, sharing. And we will see you guys tomorrow for a fun vlog.
That's it.
That's it. Thanks, guys. We'll see you later. Bye.
Yeah.